Yeah. Son. About to do it. That's gonna look like. Ooh, don't do that. What are you doing? I see what you're doing. What are you doing? Why are you doing that for? It's a little crooked. That's what I'm gonna do. Sit down. Come on.
You got log on your phone, log on your computer.
Yeah. Trying to really get it going. Time check. Oh, 4, okay. So let's
Y'all good? Y'all need anything?
I'm good, man.
Wonder where the tree shell. She said she was done. I called her right from the door. Some of them from that somewhere there. Well, they were, came through. It's typically that's from more Saturday, Saturday, right? Or is that Friday? Friday, that's when it's Friday also.
Actually, going to time to property, he was going on 3 days a week.
Damn.
So we had Wednesdays, National Language classes.
She had a female in it. So everybody else showed up. 5 days or so. Check it out. Yeah, I was just trying to remind you, don't forget to bring that, that 1 gallon bottle you told me. I know you may forget about it. That's all. Okay. Okay, that's it. Yeah, we didn't start yet. I just told them, you know, females, I figured we wait for you to get here. Because some other females who I know coming as well, they're not here yet as well. So. Exactly. Okay, no problem. Don't forget your bottle, that gallon. So you don't forget it. Yeah. All right. All right. So she leave in 20 minutes. Waiting for the Uber to come pick her up. So got you, you say you complain for it, Josh, you say it doesn't have or no? Josh say it's second place.
So, he ordered bread, so we can't really.
Okay, no, I was wondering because I was trying to figure out if y'all come together, y'all both came separate. So y'all was somewhere else before you came.
What did we not sign? We came up. So we came.
No, what I'm trying to say is that I know you say you complain, but I don't know if y'all live together now or y'all still stay separate. Where
we still stay separate, yeah. He just put me on the camera.
That's what I'm saying. So technically, I guess y'all didn't shut down this somewhere. Y'all moved over together.
What happened was, we were on Facebook. We hit him on Facebook. And then he was saying that Roman, like Florence.
Yeah. Oh, so y'all two like y'all knew each other for like a long time like that. Oh, okay. Okay. That's cool. You still in Chicago?
No, we went to the Division.
Oh, the Division. Okay. Oh, yeah, I see each other again over there.
No, I brought her.
Oh, you brought her? Oh.
We took a plane.
How was it?
It was cool. We went to Chicago, Division, met other leadership and all that, and then we went to the exchange and everything like that. So we never working together.
That's good.
That's more people too. Then I got he's more, he's one more sick.
So you can't really come out right now?
But she had to go out of town.
So what's the scene down there in Philly? How's it down there?
Crazy, brother. Crazy, man. They take
It's very destructive, man. We killing each other down there. It don't make no sense.
Honestly, the truth be told, I never seen so many young people. And you see ones all the time. He's like 14, 15, 16.
Yeah. So, you know what it is? Because a lot of these youth don't find that common person that they respect. Somebody that will be what you call a voice of reason. When you don't have that person that's respected, whether they're young or old, from the young and old, it kind of leads to like an open forum, like everybody, like every man for themselves type of do or die type of mentality. And I think that's what's going on in a lot of our communities. Like people are
Peace, what's good, Najee?
Social media, looking at what the rappers or whoever got, and they're like, I want
long
that
time no
shit.
see.
They trying to take each other out to get it, all
doing
these materialistic, nonsensical things that don't really mean anything, don't hold no value. You ain't got no knowledge of something.
Right, crooked too.
That's really what it boils down to. That somebody got to get boots on the ground down here, and they got to take those streets back. What y'all have to do is going to be less. Not at all. We got too many distractions. That's right. We got way too many distractions. We got too many, aka shiny trinkets that's being handed to people, shiny and run for those shiny objects, not realizing that when you run for that, there's something more sinister waiting at the end.
Exactly.
That's going to kill you off and kill everybody else off underneath you, but you don't realize it. And, you know, you want that life. You don't want the information, the knowledge.
My fault.
What's up?
What you do? More's lit? Hold on.
You put it up there?
No, I ain't put it up there. Thought I had. Can I have? I put it.
I thought I said it here somewhere.
What you is it over there?
Nah, that's it.
Now, what it takes, right? Take like supposed to take.
Hey.
You got stuff up.
All right. You see it? Here it is, bro. Makes it easy without a camera, though. Peace, love, Islam.
Oh, you want to start right now?
Yeah, we're gonna start because off the time. Islam. You know what to start. As a custom of the Moorish Science in America, it is custom for us to open up with prayer. And our custom Moorish American prayer. So if you find the east, face the east. And if you're comfortable, you can stand in salidation. If not, you can remain seated. 2 fingers on the right, 5 on the left. Feet at a 45-degree angle. You repeat after me. Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector. My God, and my salvation. By night, and by day. Through His holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. We're going to
have a reading of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws.
Hey, sis. Hello, everybody.
That's one right there.
We're going to have a reading of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Salvation, law, unity. Moorish Science Temple of America, Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Chief and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make laws and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Chief is to assist the Grand Chief in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday the first man was formed in the flesh, and was on a Friday that he departed out of flesh and ascended into his Father God alone. For that cause, Friday is the holy day of all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is put in danger or accused falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and impartial of this said government, and no, they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God Allah. Noble Jew Ali, founder, Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Jew Ali. Amen. Islam,
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 Islam.
Islam.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. My name is Brother L. Perry Bay, affectionately known as Brother Solo. So most people that know me. We're having a presentation here talking about what nationality is and also the distinction what nationality is not. So basically, what I want to do right now is give a short reading of the Prophet's literature entitled "What Should We Call Him?" And basically, this literature comes out of the Moorish Guide newspaper, which was in circulation during the time of our Holy Prophet Noble Jew Ali, to convey messages and information to the general populace, those who recognize themselves as Moors. So, with that being said, I'll read this article. What shall we call him? So often our various journalists find trouble in selecting the proper name for the Moorish American. Some say Negro, another will brand him race man. Still, another will call him Afro-American. And then come colored, dark American, coon, shine, the brethren, and your folks. It is indeed a hard matter to find something suitable for the various occasions where a title needs to be used. Is it that these people have no proper name? Did they have a national name when first brought to these shores in the early part of the 17th century? If so, what was it? Did not the land from which they were forced have a name? It now appears a good idea for those whose duty it is to write for the various journals to find out what the national name of the forefathers of these people was. Also, look into the history of the founders of civilization and see who they were and where they stood in the building of the present civilization. Probably 2 hours in an up-to-date library will serve to relieve the strain on our men of letters when the occasion presents itself for a title to be used for these people. The matter of the various names given to these 22 million people of all colors of every race of the globe was an act of European psychology. They gave him a name, then defined it as something inferior to theirs. White, they defined as a color of purity. Black, they say, represents everything of evil. The Negro, as they were called in this nation, have no nation in which they might look with pride. Their history starts with the close of the Civil War, or more properly with him being forced to serve someone else. Thus, he is separated from the illustrious history of his forefathers, who were the founders of the first civilization of the old world. This matter should be looked into with a hope of correcting it. And basically, that's what we're here to do tonight, with the hope of correcting these issues, these slave marks. Being that we talk about nationality, we would have a lawful definition of nationality, which states that quality or character that arises from the fact or person belongs to a nation. And that's a lawful definition, but however, being that we have a holy and divine prophet, when he speaks of nationality, that means we also have a holy and divine definition of nationality. He says that nationality is the foundation of mankind on earth, and whoever fails to proclaim this nationality is a slave in whatever land he finds himself in. And with that being said, I'm going to bring on the speaker for the night, Brother Terrence Parker L., affectionately known as Brother Talik L., Grand Sheik and Chairman of Memorial Mountain Missing 28.
Islam. Give me 1 minute, y'all. Just let me get my
straighten that up a little bit. It's kind of perfect.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Just like to the side.
They have a problem with
Just trying to straighten it out.
a little straight.
It's a little straight. Yeah. Might have to do. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. Hit
You want me to hold the camera for you? I'll hold the camera if you want.
Okay. Let's go back to this way. Yeah. Let me see if I can get it a little bit darker. There you go. This is good. Oh, there we go. I ain't asked for the notes. Hold on. Go ahead, brother. I ain't asked for the notes.
Start with your first style. You switch it to points or whatever.
Yeah. All right, let's move. So these are your slides. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know you had a dump.
Yeah.
I would do more than
Yeah, it's good. I'm sorry.
Great,
Y'all see it? All right. Islam. First, I want to rise and humbly give praise to Allah, great God of the universe, creator, sustainer, causes and rule this world. I want to rise and humbly give honors to all the prophets that was came before, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, etc. Rise and have high honors, special honors to the man that was sent to us on this shore as Prophet Noble. When I rise and give honors to his form, bearer, Marcus Mosaic Garden. And I rise, I give honors to the War Science of America. I give honors and honors to our flag of descent. Red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the middle represents love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I rise, I give honors to this flag, which represents the nation that we were born within, the American flag, and also the nation that we also helped start. Islam. Rise and give honors to the War Science of America. Past leadership, first appointed Supreme Grand Chief Edward Milieu, and the honor to whom we recognize as ourselves as the current Supreme Grand Chief, Keith Dangerous. Islam. If I say anything here today that's out of order, it's not right, not at all, please let it not be on Allah, let it not be on the Prophet, let it not be on our organization, let it be on me. Honestly. So if anything goes wrong, whatever, I take the burden on myself. It's not on the movement, it's not on my founder, and it's definitely not on Allah. We, briefly just to let you know, we are the Muslim Mission 28. We are a subsidiary organization of group that's under the War Science of America. In 2015, the Supreme Grand Council and our particular administration decided, according to the affidavit filed and being the missionaries for the propagation of the faith of Muhammad, that it would be more suitable, instead of saying study groups, to form what they call missions. And missions have a purpose to begin to propagate the faith, begin to get established membership within their local areas and so forth and so on. So in 2016, I was given the authority to actually have a mission after a turmoil of events. But praise Allah, Allah knows best. And we're here today just to present our first time we were here at ALKALINE Express was actually for the Prophet celebration. We had a nice little gathering, beautiful. But here, we're here on business. We're here to actually talk about nationality. So, praise Allah. We have to think about nationality. Let's open up with the forerunner. Marcus is in Lord. He says, on nationhood. Nationhood is the only means by which modern civilization can completely protect itself. Understand that key. Completely protect itself. Independence of nationality, independence of government is the means of protecting not only the individual, but the group. These are concepts. Just try to record these concepts in your mind. Nationhood is the highest ideal of all people. Next slide. Our dear brother, Malcolm X, Shabazz. Can't really see that because it's a little faded, but I'm going to try to bring it up. The political philosophy of black nationalism means that the black man should control the politics and the politicians in his own community. This is part of nationality. This is part of nationality. This is what a lot of other people are not teaching you when they talk about nationality. They tell you, claim your nationality, and they got some all other stuff they got incorporated with that, whether it be, right to travel, tax, exemption, and all that. That has nothing to do with nationality. You have to be political to make it work. Islam? Next slide. Nationality. He read the definition basically, but we'll go over it. According to Black's Law Dictionary, it is, let me read it off here. Black's Law nationality is defined as the quality or character which arises from the fact that a person belonging to a nation or state. Nationality determines the political status of the individual. Key word, status. Especially with the reference to the allegiance. While domicile determines his civil status. Nationality arises either by birth or by naturalization. According to the Savini, nationality is also used as opposed to territoriality for the purpose of distinguishing the case of a nation having no national territory. Okay, pause right there. This is well back real quick. So, in that definition, it deals with having civil status, there's territoriality. When you think of concept or the experience of the so-called African American black, our people, we have been relocated, we've been dispersed, whether in America, the bounds of the United States, the bounds of many countries in South America, the Caribbean islands, we've been dispersed. But we all have a common origin. Even if you claim to be a native or indigenous to this land, you still have a common origin with your brothers and sisters over on another continent. There's a commonality. There's always been a commonality. The commonality is that we, prior to colonialism, we've always been interacting with each other. We've always been sharing. We even warned against each other. That's a whole other lecture. But the concept is, when you're dealing with nationality, you're dealing with the people who can generalize, who can actually look at each other, come together with a common identity, a common goal, common past. people on the internet will say, well, brothers and sisters in Africa never came in guys. Brothers and sisters in Africa say, well, you know, they act like they don't know us, or they're different. You know, that's the program. That's the program. It separates. The truth of the matter is, they were being colonized in Africa too. Very hard. Bar none. You gotta think about this. If you go to Gordy Island, where they had the slave passage, and something you gotta think about. What type of power you have to go in someone else's land and set up a slave castle? Who built the castle? Or was the castle taken over? This adds to the fact that we were suffering over this shore, the family was suffering over that shore. It took a little longer with them, less with us, because we were already divided amongst each other. But our common story is common. So when you deal with nationality, we can say, hey, you know what I'm saying? Hey, we experienced the same colonialism. We said we got the same marks. We're under the same situation. Our culture is still the same. Our rhythm is still the same. So we have things. And what binds us together also is common religion, common spiritual practices. So I'm giving you a kind of like a basic, so you understand how nationality flows. Now when you do a status, the men's definition says status. So when you do a status, that's different. Status is different. We're going to go at it in a second though. I'm going to touch territoriality. Territoriality is basically what I said before. Because we were dispersed, we do not have a defined or definitive land in a sense. You don't have to. You don't have to. And the rules of nationality. You don't have to be based on one set territory. Bosnians, Albanians, scattered all over. The Jews in the European nations had to give them a land. Right? It was on? 45. After World War II. They occupied the land literally they didn't occupy before. They didn't have a land. They were German, they were in Poland, they were in Austria, they were all over Europe. Now they got land. But you don't need it. In nationality, the other governments actually recognize it. There's certain situations that cause for you not to have a common area in this country. But your nationality binds you no matter where you're from. John? We go to the next slide. Status. It's the elephant in the room. I had to put this in here because I wanted to actually speak about what status is and its clarity for the record. Status has nothing. How about this? Status is not necessarily. Okay, let me say this. It's not what everybody else said it is. Status, it says standing state or condition. Reynolds, Pennsylvania Oil Company, 1.5 cal. This is basically the law, the court case is basically define that. The legal relation of an individual to the rest of the community. Boom. This is key. Your legal relation to the rest of the community. Nationality helps affect that. Okay? When you say you're a Negro, black, colored, African American, it has a big correspondence to it. When our people going by color or Negro, they were carrying over a slave title. They were carrying over a status. Even though you might get a few accolades, But they don't really let you get far. They're not going. Other nations are not going to recognize you with that particular title. Status with nationality, it helps change your status. Because now you have a recognizable culture, a recognizable group that you belong to that has a political aim. And it's not just, oh, I'm Democrat, I'm Republican. No. I don't care what you are. Do we have a common goal? Doesn't matter whether this person is Republican, doesn't matter whether it's Democrat. Are they going to make our agenda manifest? That's what nationality does. Nationality gives you that identity. So now, it's like, Solo can tell you, what, it was yesterday? We were walking down Camden. Feds on, right? People stopping, hey, peace to God. Like, what? You know what I'm saying? They throwing whatever out there, man. I'm just like, but you're getting the accolade, you're getting the recognition. You know what I'm saying? I was in the post office yesterday. It was like, you was running? I said, no, sir, Morris Marion. Morris Marion. I said, y'all people got we said, y'all people got a wonderful, wonderful background. I said, yeah, we upstanding citizens. I said, that's right, that's right. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, you have this particular, you have this particular reputation that comes with it. I was Negro, black. If I wouldn't have said, he wouldn't have no conversation for me. I was regular. I ain't had affairs with him. Recognized it. Right? But that the status, it builds your reputation. It gives you a reputation in the face of the other community. The community looks at our people as what? You know what I'm saying? We be entertainment to them. Can you shoot the ball? Can you rap? Can you sing? Can you act? You know what I'm saying? Like, never really look at, what do you think about this? They never really give you that particular, or basically that accolade that you think that we deserve. They never do that. They'll give you a bone. Okay, yeah, that was good. Oh, never really know or recognize it. You know why? It's not their fault. You keep moving. We're not recognized by nationality. So our status is affected. But status doesn't mean that I can walk in a building, I can go to Walmart, and I ain't got to pay taxes on my items out there. That's not status. Status doesn't mean I'm driving, the police pulled me over after I got done going like 60 in the school zone, and I'm I got status, so they go, nah, it's not gonna work like that. It's not status. Status happens is if when you're in the court and you've been mischarged or wrongfully accused, and you have your people in the back, recognized community, who have a political connection or have done something politically to promote somebody in office, and they say, who you got bringing charges against? Oh, hell, he's in that community? That's status. Status is me, so all of us here, we congregating outside of ALKALINE Express, chilling, building. They know, you know, our nationality. And then there's other people who ain't claiming nationality. They look at us, they gonna go right to the other people. As far as police. That's status. It's not even all the time. When you have an identified nationality, your status is identified. You know, people you have to be aware of, or be careful of certain people who promote the ideas of status. Because sometimes they'll have you thinking that you can walk into a house that's clearly up for sale or on the market and thinking that you got occupied. Clearly you don't understand status. Status is that you know a realtor and you know somebody sitting on the community, who's sitting on City Hall in the community and say, hey man, you know, we trying to get this building for X, Y, and Z. Oh yeah, you guys have a good reputation. Yeah, we were going to give you a ribbon for y'all. We cut a little off of you. What's that? You know what I'm saying? That's that. You know, it's basically how your reputation, how they view you in society. You know? So later on, okay, it says rights, duties, capacities, incapacities, which determine a person to a given class. It's your class. Personal, legal person, personal relationship, not temporary in its nature, nor terminable at the mere will of the parties with which third persons in the state are concerned. So it's the state. You live in the state. Your state, or the society you live in, recognizes and determines your status. That's the meat and potato of it. They determine your status. The Dalit, or the untouchables, the government of India determined their status. Unfortunately, how they treat you. But in the laws, the United States of America has certain things. So the Prophet Noble Drawley says, United States Constitution is the greatest document in the world. Because he found something to help us bring our status up. Go do next slide. Oh, go back. Go back. John Clark. Hit that picture. Hit him.
In this country, searching for a nationality. And once we find our nationality, and serve that nationality.
Let me pause real quick. I had to turn it down because it was so low. My son uses this for his what was up? Huh? Yeah, it's probably sweet. Don't do that. It's I want to share this too. Just go back to it. Sorry about that. Oh. What's up?
In this country, searching for a nationality. And once we find our nationality and serve that nationality, we'll do for ourselves what needs to be done. All ethnic groups in this country understand they got a nationality. Because you answer to such stupid words like Negro and color and
No,
black.
I'm sorry.
You have no nationality. Negro is not a nationality. Some lazy Portuguese or Spanish took an adjective and made a noun out of it. Color is not a nationality. Black tells you how you look, but it don't tell you who you are. Right. The name of a people must relate them instantaneously to land, history, and culture. And anytime you call a people by their right name,
Why nationality? What's that?
I know what happened. Let me stop here. Sure. There we go. Let's go to this one. There we go.
All right. Why a nationality? Why nationality? Slavery and colonization stripped us of our identity and tribal connection. Current labels, Negro, Black, Colored folk, Ethiopian, African American, are labels that were given by European imperialists. Their purpose was to categorize us as property or chattel. With a nationality, we could organize as a collective unity with similar experience with a common goal. With a nationality, you belong to a society that can represent your concerns and needs, as well as begin to fashion means towards independence. Next slide. Okay. So, it said, let's deal with identity. In our divine constitution and bylaws, it is written that Act 6, know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians. But these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865, during the time of slavery. Next slide.
There we go.
I stole this from our census. We had a census campaign earlier in 2020. We were trying to get a lot of people to change their racial identity on the census form in 2020. And we were trying to get people to go with Asiatic Moorish instead of the standard black or African. We had a whole information set up to show that within the bounds of the status, racial status, they actually had, if you look at the status on your racial, basically your 180, was it S181? And whether it be white, Asian, white, Asian, Native American, all those, or Pacific Islander, all these different racial categories said in their description having a connection or origin with the original peoples of that area. But when it came to black, it didn't say that. It just said having connection to the black races. It didn't say the original people. So our Supreme Grand Chief Pete Gandazell, he actually brought that to the attention to the census in his area. He said, did you notice that it doesn't say that? And the lady was, I guess she was the regional correspondence for the census at the time. She saw it, she was just like, I never knew it. I never noticed it. Never noticed it. So very, very interesting. So, and this slide here, it says connecting the dots. And this goes through basically listening about what Pope Nicholas V issued out the Papal Bull. And it says basically, it means until different, it authorized Alonso V, King of Portugal, to conquer the Saracens. Another term for Saracens was Moors. If you read a book called Ancient Modern Brits, the Saracens were basically considered people from the east. The Moors from the west. But in his book, David British, he said, they're pretty much the same thing, Moors and Saracens. They're just from the east, Arabia, in those areas. So when they say Saracens, they basically mean Moors. Saracens and pagans. And consign them to perpetual servitude. Perpetual servitude. Slavery, basically. This facilitated the Portuguese being the first to start slave trade in West Africa, especially targeting the Moors as Saracens. No other Islamic nations have been enslaved except the Moors. That's fact. There really hasn't been in the history of Islamic history a group of people or Muslims that haven't fell into the bonds of slavery, except our people. It started with our people. That was a cash commodity for us. But like the prophet said, chased after we chased after basically the gods in Europe that we knew not. We did not honor our mother and father and their principles. We turned on each other. If you actually study Moorish history from the beginning, I'm talking about before the actual taking over and even during the actual campaign of 711 AD, they were divided in kind of. It's like this one was one of this one, and this one fell back, and then over in the Umayyad dynasty and all these types of things, they were trying to get the power, and then eventually Umayyad fell, and they came back to the power, and they fell again, and here comes the Abbasid, they took power. A whole cluster. I had time to actually look at that stuff. And I was like, this is insane. But the thing is, the insane part is the fact they were able to hold it down for centuries. And all that infighting. It's crazy. Like, how do you do that? You know what I'm saying? But it's a will of Allah, it had to happen. Because over in Moorish Spain, they were doing their business. They were honoring themselves, honoring their mother and father, honoring even themselves, keeping their connection with Allah. But then, all of a sudden, they began to change. The whole vibration began to change. They began to chase after other things. Riches and wealth started to come, and they became overwhelmed for themselves. They started chasing after that, to maintain that, more so. I told the solo, I said, if you think about it, man, there's a lot of Muslims now, but it ain't the same. It ain't the same potency like what back in 711 when the Moors were in power. We got a lot of good Muslims. Moving on. Whether the Shia, Sunni, they're brothers, they're sisters. But to be honest, we had a sat down discussion and really got down to talk. Honestly, we were like, hey, it's not the same. It's not the same. We lost a lot. Ain't no great inventions being made right now. I don't know, no great edifices being made. Where's the grandeur city-states? We talk about Saudi Arabia because that's compromised. They got to build a Catholic church over there. Like, So, can you do me a favor? Or can you actually read the rest of that stuff from the second paragraph instead of me?
In 1493, Alexander VI issued the Bull Interior Catera, stating one Christian nation did not have the right to establish dominion over lands previously dominated by another Christian nation. This angered Portugal because they were shut out from the New World land claims. So, June 7th, 1494, Spain and Portugal signed the Treaty of Tordesillas. It divided newly discovered lands outside Europe between Portugal and Spain. This dividing line gave Portugal exclusive right to Africa and Brazil. Spain kept the rest of the Americas.
Spain was the first one to cash in on the Americas. Spain was the first one to cash in on the Americas. Can you go to the next slide? Can you read that?
Moorish Holy Quran, chapter 7. Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa. They were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. Their dominion and inhabitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa, across Great Atlantis, even unto the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands, before the great earthquake which caused the great Atlantic Ocean. What your ancient forefathers were, you are today, without doubt or contradiction.
So, you just read the Papa Bull. You read the Tordesillas, right? How they divided. They said the lands amongst themselves. Whose lands? Our lands. See the connection? When we talk about nationality, common people having a common experience. See what happened? Both sides of the water. They conquered and divided it for themselves. How do you trace? Sometimes one person told me the way you can trace it back is trace where they took over. Wherever they conquered, that's where you were. You can trace back your history sometimes by the person that took it over. You have to dissect it. So that's the stones or the breadcrumbs that was left in the trail. And the prophet was able to take it and put it together. There's some people don't understand how he could write that in 1927. 1927, they were, how do you do that? Put it together in a short pamphlet. But it expounds a vast history. When you read the Moorish Civil American literature, especially the Moorish Holy Quran, you can see that it's basically written in a way of an outline that gives you key points for you to go search. It's written in a way where it codes, even though it is direct, it still codes a history. Great Atlantis, before the great earthquake. How old is the Atlantic Ocean? That's key. You find out how they cross over. One more tomb, one added tomb. Because we had this big discussion. Oh, this is Morocco. That's not Morocco, this is Morocco. No, America's Morocco. Kind of. The actual reality of it is, wherever Spain took over, Portugal was it, considered that territory of the empire. Now, don't be talking about you in California, that's Morocco, right? That's something else. You know what I'm saying? You can have all that. The eastern border, New Jersey, especially, soil, similar to Morocco in New Jersey. Same. So we knew where to go. We knew where to have it. The Europeans, they got the information after we fell. They said, they got all this going on. But we got to get some of that. I'm paranoid. And that's happening. That's where we're going now. Go next slide. Bo, if you could just read the highlight parts right here. That, and then the paragraph right there. Is that flow together or not? Huh? That's too small. Never mind. Let's read the Lenape Moors.
The Lenape Moors of Delaware, the indigenous people of Delaware. They are historically recognized by Delaware law as Moors. Tamanid or Saint Tammany or King Tammany was the chief of chiefs and the chief of the Turtle clan of the Lenape Nation in the Delaware Valley, signing the peace treaty with William Penn at Shakes of Amexem. Founding Pennsylvania, USA's original seat of government before it was moved to Washington, D.C. This is why Tamanid is known as patron saint of America. Here we see his statue in Philadelphia, standing on a turtle with an eagle on his shoulder and a Moorish fez on his head. The eagle is holding the Wampum Belt Treaty in his talons.
Okay, a little brief history. This land, and let's say, okay, we talked about the occupation of these lands, these territories by our ancestors. Well, let's say this, that at this point, at what he's reading, our ancestors' connection kind of grew apart. So they began to form clans and tribes of their own. One of the tribes that exists is the Lenape. Anybody know anybody with the Lenape? Have a connection? Okay, well, you know that this land in the immediate term is theirs. New Jersey. Check it. Anybody, brother Turtle Gang does a beautiful, he's done an extensive job of covering his family and the Lenape heritage. Philadelphia, it was known as Shakes of Amexem. It was a land where they all met, the heads, to discuss leadership matters, governmental matters, so forth and so on. St. Tammany, we find that statue down off of Broad Street. Okay? Down off of Broad Street. No, Market. Market Street. Market Street. If you ever go down there, go to Market, go down there. Don't go to other market going west, you're going south. Right? Go to Market, you'll find that statue, him standing on a turtle, which is one of their cosmology symbols within their clan. So, they have I think there's a turkey buzzard. If you know anything, if you've been to South Jersey, there's a whole bunch of turkey buzzards. That's a turkey buzzard. I was going out to places like Salem, they conjure their car. Definitely. And if you see a lot of them, basically they found something to eat. But it said within the claw, he's holding the Wampum Belt tree. That was the peace tree that was actually given to other natives to actually form a bond, a treaty of peace between them. Because we were fighting over here. And they were going to extend it to the Europeans. And bring them in a perfect union. I tell everybody that Delaware was actually designated for the Lenape. That was their state in the whole agreement. But not every native was with it. It was like, no, wait a minute, what? You're going to give us all, and you're going to give us this? No, wait. We're not with that. And there's someone that tiptoed with the Europeans, like, they ain't with us around. So this is where all the backbiting, you know, basically knocking them out, and then the ones who actually sided with the European got done dirty. You see this, the division? Not being on one accord, nationality, having one common mind. And you see what happened, right? Go to the next slide. Making the dimes for me time. Okay, read,
Key points.
Yeah, points.
Key points to remember. 1. Here we see that Berbers are the only group of Africans labeled as slave Africans, which legally means Negro. 2. Moors are recognized as free inhabitants of Africa. 3. All other Negroes besides Moors and Egyptians are called Asiatics, yet they are also designated as free. 4. Indians who are not in amity, not friendly, with the government are declared extinct. 5. We already know the Spanish found Moors, Amorites, Moabites, Canaanites, etc. to be the original Indians in 15th century America.
Majority, a good portion of our native indigenous brothers in their history will tell you that they came from the east. They traveled from the east to set up here. The Negro classification, as you can see, in this document, you can't see it clearly, but what it's saying is that there was a separation. You were Moor, you can identify as a Moor, you were considered a free white person, free to travel as you please at that time. But that wasn't because you were just a Moor, though. I'm going to later explain that. Negro, of course, dealt with one who was a slave, laws basically established. That was the trickery, to throw everybody up under that. They realized if I could throw you up under that, I could change your status. Now, I already got the laws that follow through with it. All I got to do is place you under it. We had a discussion, Brother Solo had a discussion on the way up here about, just the racial composition dealing with Haiti and Dominican Republic. And I said, man, I don't care what they said, man. I had people, when the earthquake happened, I had some people say Haiti was on a different tectonic plate than the Dominican Republic. It's stupid. It's the same island. It was purposely hit. That earthquake purposely hit Haiti for a reason. But Solo was saying it's a shame because at the bottom line, they think they're two different people. Because that was the plan. When we turn of the century, the European realized he is the minority. So what he did, he put the call out, let's go populate the earth. So that's why you go to Argentina, you see all these Russians, Germans who went down there and mixed with the people. A lot of Europeans went to Jamaica. Same. Bob Marley's dead. Right? And you got all these different other Europeans, they went here, they went there, they went all over different places all over the world to populate. They had this influx of Europeans coming in to work, but then they separated class as the region got united. Did that here. They realized it was too big. So they had to do something. So, let's build Ellis Island. Welcome all in. This is how you change this. Yeah, sometimes they had to change the ratio. But when you're dealing with the Negro and that concept, the idea was to push people away from their ethnic or their national identity into that category. So they can do as they will. Keep them at their bed. Can't do nothing if I have a water surrounding around you and you don't have anybody to vouch for you. I separated you from your family and moved you down here. So nobody can vouch for you. You're separated. That's the idea. Next slide, more. Okay, so you have this basically connecting connecting the dots. So you're basically talking about the Berbers were made Negroes by law, as I said before, into Moors. You can go to the next slide. Okay, this is a little more bigger than the point. Negro equals slave. According to David Walker's work, the word Negro, he highlights the origin of the Negro. It was used to identify an inferior object. It was carried over by the European to build class system, to subjugate those Moors or Asiatics into inferior citizenship. Like I said, it changed their status with religion. It changed their status with religion. Of course, with the laws as well. But basically, next slide. Next one. I love this one. I love this one. Because you can look at the face. I know y'all can't see this. But you can see this European, he look like he's reading something. He look like he's reading something. And you can look at the expression on these two faces, like, yo, what is he? Yo, are you serious? Like, a man got the hand on his shoulder, like, yo, don't, just let it go. Like, it really expressed what happened. It kind of looks like something that actually happened to us. Like, yo, these dudes is tripping. Like, you ever been in a place where you worked at a facility and the law and the rules keep changing and they want you to do something different? And you're like, wait a minute, hold on, you keep tripping. I gotta look for another job because these people are paying. Like, you ever been, it's kind of like that same feeling. So, let's read, it says 1774, 1779 was the time of our denationalizing. In Moors 101, the question for Moorish children, it is mentioned. P85, and some of the marks put on Moors of Northwest by the European nations in 1774. Answer is Negro, black, colored, and Europe. Yes. Okay. Let me read this. Okay, the birth of a nation. I'm going fast, because I know the time. All right, let me give you, hold on, pause it for quick. Let me give you a background, because I studied this film in college. But we had to, because this is the first full-length feature film. As you know, the majority of people in here have black faces. Europeans cover blackface. They're supposed to be playing us. Okay? The scene right here is this guy. You know, they got freed by Lincoln. Woo, right? Whatever. Lincoln got shot, boom, killed. That's early in the film. This guy, he finds himself a snow bunny. He's chasing the snow bunny. He wants to get with the snow bunny. So therefore, instead of her going with him, she throws herself off the cliff. But now, so, yeah, I can bypass this. Let me see. Hold on, let me go back. Nah, this, because I want to show you something. Let's let it play. It's only like 4 minutes. They played this in the White House. They played this in the White House. This was the consensus of the European, of our people at the time. I feel like we were going to take over. So I tried explaining to one more on Facebook, and trying to say, well, in the program, in their book, it says they're supposed to be, it says something about being children. It says they were, they're not against to fight us, but it was supposed to help us because they were inferior. Something like that. But it shows that they're supposed to be keeping us in line. Because it said, actually speak out of the lawyers. They don't protect us. I don't know if you saw Birth of the Nation. He must watch it. this is propaganda to the fish. Okay, so he's coming, he's looking for her. She's looking for her, he's coming. Stay away, I'll jump. She fell, she jumped, she rolled. So now he hides out at the hideout. It's the bar. Actually got some real brothers in there, but trying to tell what happened. Say, alright, you good, just hide here, man. We'll keep you safe, close the door. This is before Tarzan. This is the prototype Tarzan. Watch, you'll see. The strong lifting up. They have to show that. He's strong. They're lifting the iron. They just doing this to hide him. Tarzan Look at this, the tribe.
Right? That's right to the point.
The tribe.
What is it?
It's the invisible empire. Look. What's that? He holding it. He drops it. I can't scroll over. Oh, let me see if we can. Let's see if I can get this. Yeah, I don't know if y'all seen it. Let's go to the next one, though. I can't rewind, but he held in his hand what looked like a fez. Looked like he had a fez in his hand. Whoa. Can you read the Dungy?
Dungy vs. Spencer. In 1855, William Dungy, called Black Bill, sued his brother Spencer in court for slander by spreading the rumors that William was a Negro. William Dungy was married to Spencer's sister. The troubling factor was that in the state of Illinois, Negroes, blacks, were not allowed to possess land. William was in the process of purchasing property from a gentleman named John Casey. Due to the news that William Dungy may be an actual Negro, John withdrew the deal. This was a time in Illinois that all Negroes had to present paperwork proving they were not slaves in order to be considered state citizens. So we can see that Negro or black had continued to carry a second-class status from the time of the Inquisition and the Papal Bull decree.
Even from there, all the way to that point, the Negro was still looked at as a second-class citizen. In the state of Illinois, this man, Black Bill, in the dungeon, was in the deal to get some property. His brother, or his brother-in-law, Spencer, realized, well, basically started telling everybody he was a Negro. He's actually a Negro. I don't know the call. When I actually read the lady who did a report on this, they were trying to make it like, oh, she was lying, fairy tale. No, it was like, you can tell, I think maybe Spencer didn't know who he was. You know what I'm saying? He knew his wife, his sister got married to somebody. And when he found out who he was, then he was just like, oh, wait, he's a Negro. So he went around and started telling he's a Negro. So the guy he had to deal with was like, hold on, if you're a Negro, I can't sell this to you. Okay. Go to the next Okay. Because of the second-class status of all people of color during the antebellum era, this is from that report by Stacey Pratt McDermott. Spencer's identification of Dungy as Black Bill was no less damaging than if he had called Dungy a thief. No less damaging than if he called him a thief. Called him a Negro. No less damaging if he called him a thief. Although less common slander suits such as Dungy's did occur, other individuals with ambiguous racial identity faced similar attacks. In Mason County, Illinois, 1843, Maria Patterson charged that Tabitha Edwards had raised a family of children by a Negro. Edwards and her husband sued, and the jury awarded them $220. In another racial slander in Christian County, Illinois, 1851, Aaron Dunham called Catherine Sanders Old Black Kate. The details of the final settlement of the case are not known, but it is certain that Sanders feared the damaging effects of such a label. In both cases, the public accusations threatened the reputation of the slandered individual. Because, given the racially charged atmosphere of the antebellum America, the question of an individual's race and family background was paramount to their life chances. Ancestry, color, in appearance worked to identify people as either black or white. Whiteness in 19th century North America then was intended to be a description of color, but rather an unfragmentable quality that marked a person off the African lineage. Why do they want to be marked off the African lineage? Why? Because at that time it was known that if you were from Africa, most likely you were a slave. So, that's right. Okay. Well, read that.
Not a Negro, but a Moor. Gentlemen of the jury, my client is not a Negro, though it is no crime to be a Negro. No crime to be born with black skin. But my client is not a Negro. His skin may not be as white as ours, but I say he is not a Negro, though he may be a Moor. Mr. Lincoln, interrupted the judge, scarcely able to restrain a smile, you mean a Moor, not Moore, M-O-O-R-E? Well, Your Honor, Moore, not C.H. Moore, replied Mr. Lincoln with a sweep of his long arm toward the table where Moore sat. I say my client may be a Moor, but he is not a Negro.
And we won the case. The dungeon just rolled back. We got them to recognize him as a Moor, not a Negro. They don't talk about this. This is very key. They talk about this, they're going to twist something up. So he was light-skinned, trying to see whether he was, he was out the room. He was one of them Londons. They call themselves Moor. You know what I'm saying? They'll throw a whole scenario with it. And it's really, like, you know what I'm saying? They won't stick to the actual facts. This man was clearly identified as a Negro by looking at him as you see him, right? But when he argued with the lawyer, attorney, Lincoln at the time, was able to argue that, hey, he's not a Negro. Client may be a Moor. Changed the whole concept. Changed the whole concept. Next slide.
Also, he also won that case and was rewarded $600.
$600. There's a lot of money back there. Okay. Because that also, because of reputable damages, because he could have got the land and all that. Because that was kind of like, you basically defaming his name. Because a lot of stuff that happened to the person when you do that. False accusations and all that stuff. You know? I have this title here, The Moor Becomes the Moorish American. Okay. Now, the reason I title this because even though Moor is the identity, the political name attaches you to the term or the idea of the nationality. Next slide. Free and Sundry Moors Act, 1790. Right? 1790. In the 1790s, 4 men and their wives, coming from Morocco, changed their history of South Carolina to legitimize their status in the United States of America. They signed a petition in order to be considered by the state's law as subjects of the Alawite Sultan Muhammad bin Abdullah. Islam? Because he was a sultan at the time. Do y'all see that? A little bit. I'm sorry.
Well, I can't see it all from good, but I can see it one eye. So, could you explain it?
I'm explaining.
Yes.
Yes.
Got it.
So, these individuals, these gentlemen and their wives, their families, were captured from the Moorish Empire under the Sultan Sultan Muhammad Abdullah. They were able to, basically, they got captured and they were brought to America. So they, maybe it was indentured servitude, they were rolling about. This is the time when the Negro Act was coming into play. So they were trying to petition the court, say, hey, y'all got something going on with Negroes. We is not them. We, it says sundry, because they weren't the same. They might have been from different tribes, different wars, whatever. So basically what it's saying is that they might have been from different kingdoms, in a sense. But they said, yo, hey, we are going to recognize ourselves. We don't want to be recognized as Negroes. We are, our loyalty is to the Sultan. We're under his protection. So they petitioned the courts to have to be recognized by them. Key point, the four families were captured and sold into slavery. They don't tell you about the free sons of Moors. You have a lot of Moors that put this out here and don't even know the backdrop of the story. But they claim to be free sons of Moors. How do you be free sons of Moors? Were you captured? You were captured from African border. And then, so, and sundry, you know what sundry means? Various. That means different kinds. If I put a fruit salad in here, I got sundry fruit salad. Because there's different types of fruit in this house. You know what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? So another key point, the four families were able to obtain a letter corresponding, verifying the citizenship under Muhammad bin Abdullah. That means they had a response. They had verification. They had advocacy. Sultan, whoever was the correspondent with Sultan Muhammad, they was like, yes, we recognize him as one of us under our. And this activated the connection and usage of the fairly new treaty of peace and friendship between the United States and Morocco. So they were able to put that in place because now these guys are not just Negroes, they have a connection to the Sultan. This now becomes an international issue. Islam? It's not domestic anymore. They actually have a connection. It's verified through this guy, Morocco. Now, let's fast forward to now. We're trying to use a treaty of peace and friendship. How can they, over a parking ticket, verify their connection to Morocco, the current state of Morocco, the current Sultan? Where's their letter? International treaty. Why are you using it for a domestic issue? Pay your ticket. Keep moving. Islam? That's a lot. And that's the point about nationality. When you have a nationality, you have a nation of body politic. The kingdom of Morocco is no more. Put that there. No offense to anybody from Morocco. I have no problem with anybody from Morocco. Well, can you read that?
Morocco began to see its decline towards the turn of the 19th century. It attempted to maintain its independence during the European invasion of the western coast of Africa. Once it fell under the protectorate of the France in 1912, its sovereignty was lost. Morocco was a dominant kingdom that recognized the U.S. in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Once that dominance is lost, what becomes of that treaty relevance?
A treaty has to be held by two sides. That person is no longer where they used to be. The treaty's kind of affected now. Citizenship, the nature of that citizenship kind of changed. You can't use it. Like using if you actually come from Morocco. But the potency of it is different. It doesn't apply. Mo, next slide. Morocco secretly mistreated. And let me read this. This is smart. I'm gonna hurt your eyes, man. I'm gonna read the last paragraph. In a previous address to American audiences, General Guillemette said, I messed his name up, the Morocco is not your colonial ancestor. If you must draw a parallel, the Moroccan is your American Indian. We did not buy Casablanca for a string of glass beads. We do not. We do not coop the Moroccans up on reservations. We build alongside them, showing them by the example the way to progress. Do not criticize that which you do not understand. Okay, so this is the time of President Eisenhower. He's dealing with the French occupation or the French protectorate, Morocco under the French protectorate. Okay, let me give this brief thing. Okay, so the Europeans, of course, they invaded Africa. You know, during the Berlin Conference, they tried to divide everything up. They continued to go in and try to seize their lands, our brothers and sisters. So Morocco held fort. They held their ground for a while. But after a while, when they got into a particular war fight, they needed funds. So therefore, they actually got some support from France and ended up falling under some debt. So therefore, they needed protection. So Morocco, so France ended up putting them under protection. That's why we saw that flag. They had the French flag on that Moroccan flag. Okay? That's why they did it. It was under the protectorate. Now, what happened was in this document, I read that last paragraph. Please do not. What that general was trying to say, he was justifying the occupation of Morocco. And he was saying, in a comparison, you want to compare this situation? It's kind of like what y'all did to the Native Americans, but we ain't putting them on reservations. We helping them. Justifying, because Eisenhower wasn't with it. He was like, well, Eisenhower was with it, but others wasn't with it, so he's just like, hey, don't knock it. We know what we're doing. Basically, they're controlling from a distance. This is what the Europeans do. Put you on this protectorate, help you, but you can't do this and that. They couldn't fly this until 1956. This is why they got rid of their consul courts. They're under the protectorate. There's brothers and sisters running around here playing around with international law. They don't know what they're doing. Call themselves consulates. Garbage. Stuff like that. They don't know what a consulate court is. Who's your nationality? Who's your government? Who's your leader? Who's the secretary? I'm saying, who am I called? Could have been people trying to do a consulate. But the idea is that Morocco couldn't fly this flag. They flew it outside. They had to have French, because there was a merchant flag, maritime flag, merchant flag, flies outside. Now, inside their borders, they probably could fly. Significantly, guess who was flying us at the time? Probably us. We were flying it here in America. It's kind of crazy, though. If they're under the protectorate and the own government, and the own nation can't fly this flag, okay. So, if they can't fly outside the government, how in the world profited they? He's flying in his office. Walk by his office. Walk by Unity Hall. And it's sitting right there in the window. With the American. Now, go ahead, next time. Hurry up. There's no time. 7. They should say,
Don't rush, don't rush. We need the info.
yeah, I know. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is good. When you ain't, I remember one time, a lot of downtime, it's on 7:30. It's on 7:30.
Hi, my name's Alan Sens, and I'm sitting outside the Global Lounge here at the University of British Columbia. Welcome to the Global Politics Instructional Video Series. In this series, we will be looking at some of the key concepts in the study of global politics and international relations. Today, we're going to start with the state. Now, obviously, the state is critically important as an actor in international relations. Why is that so? Well, first of all, many people argue that the state is the most important actor in global politics today. And it's important because the state is a driver of global politics. Global politics happens the way it does because of the state. Now, many others argue that the state is in decline, that it's losing this power. Other organizations, they say, like institutions and multinational corporations and non-governmental organizations, are all becoming more powerful, and they are starting to drive why things happen in global politics. But whatever you might think of the state, it's pretty clear that the state is a very important actor and a very important part of our subject matter. So today, let's have a look at the state. So let's begin. Okay, so the state. Now, there's a lot of different definitions of the state, and you can look them up if you like, but the one we're going to work with is the state is a political and legal entity. And I'm just going to draw a picture of a state. It's like this. And all states have a certain set of characteristics. And the first characteristic is they all have a border. That is to say, they have a clearly defined territory, where it's clear what is internal to the state and what is external to the state. Second, all states have a permanent population. Essentially, people within the state, for the most part, are citizens. Now, there are some exceptions to that, of course, but most states have a permanent population. So here are some citizens, and they all look very happy, and of course not all citizens are happy, so I'll just draw an unhappy citizen here. But the whole idea, of course, then, is all countries have a permanent population. Third, all states have a central government. And this government, and I'll just draw a government building here at the center to symbolize that, all have certain responsibilities. They all control the territory, they control the administration of the territory, they pass rules, create laws, etc. The central government basically runs everything internal to the state. Fourth, all states are considered sovereign, at least in principle. And what this means is that all states, in principle, are free from interference from the outside in their domestic affairs. And states take this very seriously, and you will often see in global politics states complaining that another state or a group are doing something that is interfering in the domestic affairs of their country. And they'll get very upset about that because they'll consider that a violation of their sovereignty. The fifth characteristic of states is that they are all recognized by each other. That is to say, if we have another state, let's call it state B. State B can choose to recognize this state here, which we'll call state A. And by extending that recognition, what state B is saying is that we recognize you, state A, as a political and legal entity, and presumably state A then does the same for state B in return. And this is important because not all states actually recognize other states as political and legal entities. And if they don't, that really says something, because essentially what one country is saying to another is, we don't recognize your right to exist. And that can be a very, very important issue in global politics. In addition, states that are recognized also will be recognized in the form of a legal standing in international institutions. So, for example, both countries A and B will be members of the United Nations and will have a seat in the United Nations General Assembly. The sixth characteristic that all states share is they have a monopoly on the use of force. And what that really means is that inside their territory, the central government has control over the legitimate use of force inside that state. Only the government, for example, can have a police force. So I'll just draw a little police officer here. And that's supposed to be a police cap. I know it doesn't really look like one, but let's just pretend it is. And the whole idea then is the government is responsible for maintaining order and security inside the state. Now, one of the characteristics of modern international politics is that many states, in fact most of them, have many national groups inside them. These nations exist within states. And there's a very important distinction between the idea of nation and the idea of the state. The state is a political and legal entity, but nations are cultural identities. And this group of people here living inside this state may consider themselves somewhat separate from the state. Maybe they have a different religion, maybe a different culture, maybe a different language. And the relationship between these individuals in this national group and the state, in particular the central government, may be very awkward. For example, they may feel that the state does not truly recognize their language, or doesn't extend them religious rights, or doesn't consider them an independent cultural group. And that could create tension, because most states want to ensure the loyalty of their citizens to the central government, and so they'll promote something called state nationalism. But not all citizens are comfortable with that. Many national groups want to be recognized for their distinctiveness. Some may even want to have their own state. And so this creates a lot of tension and sometimes violence between national groups and central governments. So take all of this together: order, population, central government, sovereignty, recognition, and a monopoly on the use of force, and you have the central characteristics of the modern state. So that was the state. Now obviously the state is still a very important actor in global politics. People debate about whether or not the state is in decline. They argue about how important it really is. And there's a big debate about the future of the state. But one thing is very clear. The state, for those of us who study global politics and international relations, is still a very important actor. I hope you enjoyed this video. Join me next time.
So, as this individual was able to break down what the state is, this is global politics. This is geopolitics. This is where nationality falls under politics, political science, right? Civics is now political science. You study political science, you study civics. It gives you an outline of what the state is. Now, I wanted you to focus also on that part where they're talking about those with different nationalities within the state who want to be recognized. That's considered our plight. Okay. Now, for many of us, or just in the past, as a Negro, Black, Color, African American, we just really wanted to be treated equal as American citizens. Okay? I was mainly the plight, civil rights, and so forth and so on. We didn't necessarily think about a cultural distinction. We didn't think about a national past distinction amongst ourselves. In this video, he was saying that people may beg the state or even want the state to recognize them as a different entity. The state will do themselves. This ties over. Now look, not here to say this is going, what I'm saying is Prophet Noble Ali actually was on point. And he was the main one or the only one that I know to actually take this idea and use it for his people. And centralizing or taking or carving out a particular society group with a common national identity, or we say, or even national standards, to identify separate from other American citizens. Still American citizens, but distinctly different. And within the society, to have the state, the United States of America, to recognize us as, okay, go to the next slide. Alright, and the nation and the state, they're two different definitions. Black's Dictionary, 4th edition, nation is defined as a people or aggregation of men existing in the form of an organized plural society, usually inhabiting a distinct portion of the earth. Usually, not all the time. Speaking in the same language, using the same customs, possessing historic continuity, and distinguished from other like groups by the racial origin and characteristics and generally, but not necessarily, living under the same government or sovereignty. Like, you know, you live in New Jersey, someone lives in California, somebody lives in Georgia, it's not the same government. Even though you're under the federal government, you know that, but even the state has a separate government. So you're not necessarily in the same portion or whatever, or you might live in Jamaica, you recognize yourself as a Newark. Possibly. It's a cohesive, there's a line of cohesive that can be built in, right? Okay, according to the Black Law Dictionary, 4th edition, state is defined as a people permanently occupying a fixed territory bound together by common law, habits, customs, similar to this, right? Into the body politic, exercising through the medium of organized government, independent sovereignty, control over all persons and things within the boundaries and capable of making war, peace, I don't know about that, war, peace, and international relations in other communities of the globe. So basically, a nation is a little more expanded. Don't necessarily have to be on the same land. It's different. State is a little more compact, a little more together. The state in itself is really the central government. That's what that is. So the state, this can go hand in hand. This can go hand in hand. Because this, so this would be in a circle, this would be the center of the circle, and this will encompass the circle, the nation, if I were to draw a graph. Okay? So the nation, everything, the nation is what comes out of the state. Next. Ron?
No.
Yes. That's how we acting up. Elements of the state, the nation, you got the border, you got population. I pretty much put them in here. Centralized government, the sovereignty, the recognition, the monopoly on the use of force. That's right. Okay. Woo! I try to put this together, comparing the elements. So if I look at the Divine Constitution of Bible, and Act 1, centralized government. Right? Grand Shaking Chairman, the More Scientific American is empowered to make law enforcement. Right? It says basically the function of your government. Act 2, 4 and 5. Acts 2, 4, and 5 is the border. It tells you your influence. Right? Act 2, all members are to be open. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and the Love, Truth, Peace, Freedom, and Justice. Friday is a holiday of holiday of rest because on Friday, the first man was born in the flesh, and on Friday, the first one departed out of the flesh, and descended unto his father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims around the world. Right? So basically, a regulation of holy day is your border. What's basically defines our culture. Then you look at 3, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Must be practiced. Must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the More Scientific America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister in any way and on any occasion or that may harm or his brother or sister, because Allah is love. So now it's dealing with the influence of, I put Act 2. It also deals with monopoly of force. So what's the law? What are we basically, what are our laws and rules? So the Constitution basically tells about making your meaning. Not to, or falsely accusing your brother or sister. Talks about the household in Act 7. The population is Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality. It talks about who is that? And we're teaching our people their nationality. Right? And then it talks about that we're not Negro, black, colored, Ethiopian. So anybody who was identifying as Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian at the time were the target population. Act 6. This is all the stuff that this gentleman has wrote down. And of course, Act 6 is right through. So you can see that you can kind of pull from that. Next slide. And American Code of Private International Law, 2 law. So, found the proper number throughout here. We went to Vancouver for the Pan-American Conference. The states in the Pan-American Conference, or what they were talking about at the time of the Pan-American Conference. Status, it was that word, and capacity of persons are governed in general by the personal law. This law applies likewise to the determination of majority. Each contracting state is free to apply as personal law either the law of domicile or the law of nationality. So somebody said the Moorish Science of America came from first state. People actually on there talking about it. You can't prefer state, you can't prefer your nationality. Like they said, you can't prefer your nationality. Prophet went down to Cuba, Havana, Cuba, and this is the law that he was dealing with because he was basically about to put us as our own state. And in your own state and under your own government, you can basically prefer your nationality, the law of nationality. You can determine your nationality. What is your nationality? Personal law governs capacity without reference to the subject matter to which it may relate, including the disposition of real property, either inter vivos or upon death. The law of nationality or national rule. Nationality law for citizenship is the law of sovereign state or of each of its jurisdictions that defines the rights and obligations of the citizenship within the jurisdiction as well as the manner in which the citizenship is acquired and how it may be lost. A person who is in the country in which they are not a citizen of is generally regarded by the country as a foreigner or alien. A person who has the recognized nationality or citizenship of any jurisdiction is regarded, or a person who has no recognized nationality or citizenship to any jurisdiction is regarded as stateless. So if you don't have a recognized nationality, you consider stateless. Negro, black, colored, so forth. African American did not have a recognized nationality, so it was stateless. Had nobody to advocate. The free sundry Moors, they reconnected themselves to the Sultan. Said, well, we got a state, we got somebody to recognize us. So therefore, they weren't recognized as Negroes. They got a verification. They called somebody, they called back. It's that simple. You can't be out here claiming something and you don't have a central government or body politic to recognize, to advocate, to say, yes, that's one of ours. It's a communication. Communication is key. That's right. politic, simple affidavit placed in regulation under the Hertz Revised Act. Basically, it's basically showing what a body politic is, a social capacity, which the whole people covenants with each citizen, each citizen with the whole people, that all shall be governed by the certain laws for the common good, state or nation or public association. So that's basically the definition we have. Next, so the body politic. The birth of a nation, this is our birth of our nation. Since the work of the Moorish Science Temple of America was largely religious, the organization has been legally changed to a religious corporation, and an affidavit to this effect has been prosecuted. 5. In Cook County Recorder's Office, Illinois. Next one. I can't really say this, but I kind of break this down. Citizenship to the United States on this flag. You have the protection, basically your rights are protected under the Constitution. Basically dealing with your status, you probably can't clearly see that. And then descent, your descent name, your religion, your culture, your free national standards, your history, all that is bound on the flags that we have. Keep on this one. All right. On affidavit, it says we derive our power and authority from the Great Quran Muhammad. Right? Surah 49, Ayat 13. Can you read that?
Human beings, we created you all from a male and a female, and made you into nations and tribes so that you may know one another. Verily, the noblest of you in the sight of Allah is the most God-fearing of you. Surely Allah is all-knowing, all-aware.
It's wrong. Next one. First aid and prevention. Next one. Then he says to these two young, the prophet said the flag is of her. Back. Right around the Then he said, this day in the land is of him. Around the board, American flag on right here and there. And it says, this day we have taken the first step towards full recognition of who we are as a nation. Remember this day in the past, and on to your great-grandsons and daughters. So the convention, the prophet had children that he had children that as editors. And they added me, he back the flag, down to my children, to let them know that this is the first step that we're taking to our independence and our freedom. Keep going this one. You see my hand? So many people claim Temple cannot confer nationality. Why issue a nationality card? Can't confer nationality, why issue? Right? This is your nationality and identification card for the Moorish Science Temple of America and birthrights for the Moorish American. That's what it says in my nationality. Received December 2013. Became an official member of the Moorish Science Temple. I got my nationality. Alright. It's the end. Don't play it yet. So you can see nationality is very extensive topic. And the steps that the Prophet Ali took basically lines up with those steps anyone would need to take to secure a nationality or to proclaim their nationality or structure their nationality. State See what happens, the global world is no longer empires and kingdoms, states, body politics. The prophet had to go and basically see the new era in time. It's new era in time. There's no empire of Morocco, unfortunately. So we had to formulate. Question?
At the first convention, we were just explaining about the flags being wrapped around the children. The prophet, he identified a temple at the first convention, correct?
It set aside a temple.
Or multiple temples.
There was more. At the first convention, all the temples came together for the convention. The temples were already set aside. Everything was already in motion. The wheels were in motion. We filed the affidavit months before. All this, it was put on file. September was the day the convention where he announced it. So everything was set aside. Everything was in motion. So temples were coming from all over Jersey, Philly. They were already set. They were already there. They had the governors, they had the chiefs. They were just coming together. You know. Is it? Okay. So, prophet already gave you the blueprint. Your status, I'm just recapping, your status, remember, is your political, how they view you. And only way to affect that and change that is your effectiveness or your activity in your community. Is how that you change your status. It's your economic growth. What are your assets? What are your businesses? What are your schools? You don't have anything. You don't have the status. You don't control nothing. You don't own nothing. You don't have status. It's just in theory. Being real. You have nationality card on top of nationality card, to tell you the truth. But if we don't do anything with it, the status still lingers. Prophet already did it. We just have to capitalize on it. Make it work. We have to do it properly. And that brings me to my last one. I said a warning. Go ahead, Mark. This is right. I'm not promoting that. Basically, you don't have to play. I'll tell you.
John Stevens joins us live tonight. John?
The county manager tells us that that mail came from a sovereign citizens group. They're known as the Moorish National Federal Republic Government. At home, that may not be a name you're too familiar with, but as far as the sheriff here in Sedgwick County is concerned, he does know who they are. An active scene outside the Sedgwick County Courthouse Monday.
This is more than just a threatening letter. This is a threatening letter that contained a substance that caused people to fear for their lives.
The Sedgwick County Sheriff says a finance employee on the 8th floor of the courthouse opened a piece of mail Monday afternoon. Inside was a white powder found to be a chemical used in hair dye. It was addressed to many, including Sheriff Jeff Easter.
I've had these folks reaching out to me 20 plus years.
He says he is familiar with the group who may be responsible.
It's a Moorish group that doesn't recognize the Constitution of the United States and the state of Kansas or any of our laws.
What he says they did Monday crossed the line. The worker who opened the mail had to go to the hospital because of breathing issues. The hazmat crew even evacuating one of the courthouse's floors.
They notified, at least the commissioners are here, notified us within a matter of seconds. So I closed my door, I just worked for a few minutes, and now I'm down.
The sheriff now looking to hold the culprit accountable.
If we can determine the elements of it being a terroristic act that it caused fear and those type of things, we've had to shut down services. That's a federal crime.
We also reached out to the FBI. A spokesperson did tell us this is an active investigation. They're aware of what happened here, but can't comment any further on this case. It's also important for you to know, the county manager wants you to know, if you're receiving certified mail, to not open it if you know the name of that group. We have that name. We've put that on our website at ksn.com. Live from the Southern County Courthouse, John Acebus, KSN News 3.
John, thank you. Just before 6, the sheriff's office and hazmat crew were called to the 1100 block of North Fairview. A sergeant says the USPS asked to have one of their mail trucks inspected. He says the postal worker who drove the vehicle had no symptoms of exposure and nothing was found in the truck.
Okay. I had to put that up there. It's just in the spirit of prophet. You always warn the prophet. To the warning I'm told, Lord, stop flashing your cars in front of Europeans. It causes confusion. It causes for your salvation. Fail to obey my orders will be of severe consequence. For love, truth, peace, freedom. And when these principles are violated, justice must take its course. You see, justice is about to take its course on people who are violating the principles. They're not in the temple, but the principles are still universal. And they're violating the principles. We don't even know if the ruler actually did this. I ain't saying they did. But because they align themselves up with certain principles, they're about to be targets. Because if this goes into an FBI investigation, it's basically going to be on site for anybody claiming to be a Moorish national, be a sovereign, those type of things. So when they trying to put affidavits and liens on you, that's not even going to get past the notary. I'm just telling you right now, because they'll do something like that. They will literally threaten people's notaries, like, hey, you notarize this, I'm pulling your license. It's serious. People think we're scared, we're the old Moors because we want to. No, there's a specific strategic plan. You got to follow the blueprint. If you go outside the blueprint, then it's not going to work. The blueprint is suffice. Nationality is not all that stuff that they're doing. It's just you recognizing your connection to a group of people. And within that group of people, you, as a group of people, form a dual society. And then you do things within the community and within each other. It's the protection, it's the advocacy, it's the unity, it's the love, and the basis of it. It's very simple. And the common. Is there any questions?
I'm not saying I need a question, guys.
Any questions, brother?
So comment.
Comment?
Questions, comments, concerns?
Concerns? Don't shut me up. Go ahead.
Well, the states was already formed. Anybody have original questionnaires, but the prophet changed it for a certain specific reason. So when you go on the first questionnaire, and when you open up the first page, he literally says, these are the Asiatic states
Islam
of North America.
Islam.
So the states was already developed. This is why when you pointed out with Act 1, the Grand Chief and Chairman of the North Council of America and power to make law, and the fourth law. So when you go into Act 1 of the additional law, it also gives you a replica of how to run the government, because it says Grand Chiefs, governors, heads of all temples, all business. So he already set the structure. But it's just that the key is, as you said, love. This is why the prophet stressed we need to learn to love. So, in the chapter of religion, it says Allah instituted laws for the governments of the world. So we have a prophet that took those laws and actually manufactured, made the divine constitution and bylaws so we can follow it. But it's too much. I want to learn. I did it.
What?
We go back, right?
Yes, sir, Mo.
I did it.
Yeah.
Driving with no license.
Yeah, Mo. I tried.
Yeah.
I tried. I had a license. I went to court, though. I tried to talk about it.
You demonstrated.
Yeah, I demonstrated. I lost that court, but I lost that case.
But you know what's funny?
You have to know how to do it.
You know what's funny? I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna close that out. When I was demonstrating on that demonstration, that day,
yeah, yes, sir.
I was in East Orange Court. Never forget his name, Judge Shokum, but they call him Judge Smokum because he be smoking everybody. And I never forget, you remember how he said your paperwork supposed to precede you.
Send it first.
Exactly. So my paperwork preceded me. So I'm going in the courtroom. I noticed something. We were the last ones.
Wow, he ain't teaching nobody.
As a matter of fact, it was 7 of us, ironically 7 of us. So they closed the door and they locked it. I said, here we go. But the moral of the story, he kept saying, now I'm demonstrating my demonstration. He just looked at me after he how we say threat, duress and coercion, and put the handcuffs on him, put me downstairs. You gonna sign these papers and brought me back upstairs. And he just looked at me. I'm gonna show you how they know who we are. He looked at me and he said, son, now he called me son. This is an Asiatic brother too. He said, son, I know who you are. You're doing it wrong. So he goes, you're not going to come in this courtroom and think I don't know the Constitution. He said, I know the Constitution from the top of my head to the crevice of my feet. He said, but again, son, you're doing it wrong. He said, if you think you're going to come in here, now here goes the ceremony. Like a phoenix rising out of the ashes. When he said that, we all just looked at each other. He said, you think you're going to come in my courtroom like a phoenix rising out of the ashes? He said, you got another thing coming. He said, I'm going to give you 3 days to think about this. When he said 3 days, the first thing that came in my mind was Adam Mashiach Kumi. Because that 3rd day was Lord Messiah rise. And when I went in there for those 3 days, it came back out. And it came back to society. I found the prophet. So everything has its course, but everybody got to pay attention. Because attention is the power. So if we can pay attention to what is going on, we can change everything in 1 day. Just 1 day. And that's just learning to love. That's all. It's the basic principle, learning to love. Islam.
Huh? You would close out a close of prayer. Wait, close out and close of prayer because I know time proceeds. Yeah. Well, you pray.
Good? You know, I'll close out with closing prayer, Father's prayer. Face the east. Right. Right. Left. Don't repeat after me. Allah, our hearts and minds, bless our ancient forefathers, divine freedom principles. This we ask, the holy name of the Son of Elohim. Amen.
Amen.
I'm good, G. I'm good. Love that question. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you for coming out.
What I will say is this, if we could, if everybody could kind of introduce themselves, because what it is different, Moorish American, different places. Like, for instance, you have this Sister Bay right here. A lot of y'all don't know her. I know a lot. Y'all know yourselves, but y'all, and like, y'all may know these brothers. But I'll just like if everybody could kind of, if necessary, just kind of keep it. Well, just,
When it's time.
Okay, that's all. I just want everybody to kind of.
Like the brother just said.
This is the day?
Yeah, this is the day got this. I ain't leaving before we communicate.
Okay. Okay. Just want to make sure everybody knows. Because he's the elder in the room, so.
Yeah, I'm 63.
You definitely old.
I'm a teenager, y'all. I done seen a lot of teenagers think they got it, man. They ain't got nothing on those teenagers. Yeah. Okay, good. So we all just started, and hopefully we come together and keep this going, right?
People fighting for the new celebrate.
That's why that's what I know you're doing. Downstairs. Oh, I'm
I talked to him, man. He landed on Virginia. Oh, okay. I was like, this is
like I said, I know you can say it was there. I just got over work myself.
Just like you said, we got to learn.